What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. Thanks for tuning in on this late night, Saturday night show as we preview the 49ers and Seahawks Week 14 matchup. Before I toss it over to my guy, if you are tuning in over on X, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive and join from there. While you're here, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Drop your comments in the chat, how you feel about this game, what you think is going to happen. We want to hear all of your thoughts. So again, hit like, hit subscribe. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen, youtube.com/49ers Hive. Now that I got that out of the way, Matt, how you doing tonight?
Listen, Zach, this is week 3 in a row that we're spending our weekends bird hunting. It's Seattle again. It's our rivals again, and we sandwiched a little beatdown of the Philadelphia Eagles last week in here with that. So cheers to everybody who's ready to go tomorrow, and let's jump right into it because I think we're going to have another good outcome for the 49ers.
Yeah, man, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, but here we are. The 49ers are now on a 4-game winning streak. Crazy season so far. 5-game winning streak, 3-game losing streak. Now again on a 4-game winning streak, and the Seahawks.
Dang, I'm put on blast already, bro. I'm coming straight from a 12-hour shift, so we're just trying to get in here on this for tonight for you guys. I did it for you. Be
grateful. The Seahawks looked much different than they did against the 49ers on Thanksgiving when they played the Cowboys last Thursday night, but I can't expect that's what the 49ers are going to see this Sunday or tomorrow, because Geno Smith just historically has not had good performances against the 49ers. Now, with that said, and 49ers throwback said here, there's a chance Drew Lock might get this start. With Geno Smith dealing with a groin injury, sounds like he's going to be a true game time decision. Matt, how much does that impact the game, if at all, good or bad for the 49ers? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I've heard all week, and I know you put it in the chat and other people put it out on X, social media and everything, that they're almost more worried about Drew Lock because he's the unknown, right? We know Geno Smith, he struggled against the 49ers. He typically doesn't do well. Maybe with Drew Lock, it's a different game plan that the 49ers aren't prepared for. Drew Lock's the unknown. I can tell you right now, Drew Lock is not the unknown. You know what he is known for? Sucking. And that's exactly what he's going to do tomorrow. I don't know, Zach, if you have any prop bets for my bookie, but I would put the over-under for 49ers interceptions tomorrow at 2. If Drew Lock starts, it's not going to be pretty. They're coming into Santa Clara. The 49ers are riding high. I think this is a team that through the 3-game losing streak really learned to appreciate what they have, appreciate each game being, its own singular entity. I think Fred Warner talked about taking everything 1 week at a time. And like we said, it's easy to throw out that platitude all the time. But with the way the 49ers lost those 3 games in a row, I do think that it's something that they can hold on to. I think they come out. I think they wax these turkeys, and it's another great day for the 49ers. I'm not worried about whoever is out there quarterbacking. But I will say this. The fact that the Seahawks felt like they needed to activate Sean Mannion tells me that it's likely going to be Drew Lock for what that's worth.
Yeah, and 49ers throwback, thanks for the heads up here. Schefter did just post 25 minutes ago. Geno Smith is dealing what is considered a 2-week injury to his groin, and as much as the Seahawks quarterback would like to try and play through it, Seattle is not expected to decide on his availability for Sunday's game for the 49ers tomorrow versus the 49ers until pregame warmups, which is not much different than what we heard earlier, other than there's a timetable on the injury itself now with a 2-week injury. So I guess we'll see. I agree, Matt. I think activating or signing Sean Mannion does maybe hint at the fact that Geno Smith isn't going to be able to go, or they're at least expecting him not to be able to go. And then I saw there was a clip of Pete Carroll going about it, and he sounded way more like he was, expecting Drew Lock to start than Geno to start. Excuse me. Yeah, I only said the thing about the unexpected with Drew Lock because last year, and it was a totally different situation, but against the Raiders, right? And I can't even remember that quarterback's name right now. He was a young quarterback, one of his first few starts. I think he's with the Broncos now, but he just lit the 49ers up. And I don't know if they were expecting Derek Carr and got something else, but when you plan for a certain quarterback and then you get something else like an hour before the game starts. I'm sure that could change a lot, but to be honest with you, the playing styles between Geno Smith and Drew Lock, I don't think are that different to where it would change too much of what the 49ers are trying to do. And again, I just think the 49ers are a better overall team, that something like that would have that big of an impact on the game for the 49ers, or for the Seahawks rather. I wanted to address what you said though about the mentality of the team after coming out against the Eagles 42-19. And yeah, Fred Warner said it with his wife, Sydney Warner, on the Warner House podcast. He was like, look, what we did against the Cowboys, we won 42-10, and then we dropped 3 straight. And I know a lot of that was injury. A lot of that was, kind of not necessarily all due to mentality, but one could argue that after you have this big emotional win, you're almost certainly due for a letdown the following week. So he was saying, I want to make sure this is the last time anybody in that locker room says the word Eagle until we have to play them again in the playoffs, if that date should come. But now we're focused on, the Seahawks, and then we're focused on who they play, the Cardinals. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I agree with you, Matt. I think that that's really key. Leave that game in last week. You have 24 hours, good or bad. The 24 hours has passed. In other news, I wanted to ask you about, because as soon as I hear Ray, I think of Matt. Ray McLeod sent to IR. The 49ers activated or signed Chris Conley to the active roster. How much does that impact anything for kicks or punts being returned moving forward?
Yeah, they also elevated Jeremy McNichols, right?
Yeah.
McNichols, I think, is going to handle the duties, the return duties, to me. I think that he's better equipped for it. But I'm not sad to see Ray on IR. I know people like him from what he did in his Pittsburgh days, but he just gives me that Richie James vibe where I see the way that he returns the ball, and I'm like, this is not it. I just don't like it. And I think that, as much as I love Ronnie Bell coming from Michigan with the fumble last week, I think Kyle's a little reticent to throw him back out there in a division rival game. He needs somebody that he can count on. Jeremy McNichols has some return experience. I think that's the way they go.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that they did activate him over Tyrion Davis-Price, who was just on the active roster for the entire season up until last week when they released him in exchange for signing Logan Ryan. But hey, I don't know how he practices. I don't know how he takes the game. Certainly things that Kyle weighs all, heavily when considering these moves. So clearly he's a big fan of Jeremy McNichols, who's been on this roster, it seems, on and off for the past couple of years. Going back to this game and the line, the 49ers, I believe the line opened at like 10.5 points, and then too many people were going on the Seahawks. So I think the line moved all the way, I think on the 49ers, the line moved all the way to 13.5 points. That's 2 touchdowns they feel the 49ers will beat the Seahawks by. But is it really that crazy, Matt? Like, they beat them 31-13 in their home. How do you feel about the line?
I don't think that's too crazy a line at all. I think that Vegas is very bullish on the 49ers at this point in time. They look like the most complete team in the NFL. They look like a team that dominated the 2 best teams that remaining outside of them in the NFC, save for the Lions. But even the Lions have shown that they got boat raced by the Baltimore Ravens. So I think the 49ers stand pretty heads and tails above everybody else in the NFC and quite possibly the NFL. I think that Seattle's going through the doldrums of a tough season. I think that they got off to a good start. They were hoping that Geno Smith was going to be the answer. He clearly is not the answer. They're a team that's very much in the mix for a playoff berth, but is quickly fading. You have the Packers coming on strong. You have some other teams that are coming on strong. And I just feel like that it's pretty clear that the hopes of the Seahawks are kind of fading at this point, regardless of the game that they, had, in between. And it's just one where the 49ers, since Brock Purdy has been here, and really since Russell Wilson has left, the 49ers kind of have the Seahawks number, and it's back to the status quo. Seattle got to enjoy a couple years with the Legion of Boom and Russ, where they were kind of the big kid on the block, but Big Brother's nursed his wounds, come back to health, and Little Brother's going to go hide in the corner again because they're about to get beat up pretty bad.
Yeah. I agree. It really does give that kind of feeling. And I think the 49ers, have just, it reminds me when I first got my dog, Tony, right? Like when I got him, I was living with my mom and my stepdad. and he had this little German pincher about 20 pounds, and he would just bully Tony constantly. And then as soon as Tony got big, it was the other way around. He started bullying him back. So that's kind of the dynamic here in the NFC West. The Seahawks just owned the 49ers for so long. Now the 49ers, they're the little brother that grew up, and they know how to fight. They know how to fight well, and they can handle their own on the road, at home. And I just think the Seahawks are simply outmatched. I want to go into the injury report on both sides here. So the Seahawks, their injury report has Frank Clark, linebacker, out. D. Eskridge, wide receiver, questionable. Trey Brown, cornerback, questionable. Jordan Brooks, linebacker, questionable. And Jaron Reed, questionable. I don't know if this doesn't have the full list because obviously Geno Smith is questionable as well. And the Niners, Ray obviously out. He's on IR. Spencer Burford, doubtful. Darrell Luter, doubtful. And Dwelly and Armstead are also out. The biggest name, in my opinion, there, Matt, obviously, is Eric Armstead, maybe literally and, figuratively. How much does his absence impact this game tomorrow? And what can we expect out of a guy like Kalia Davis, who saw a little bit of action in relief last week versus the Eagles?
Sure. I think it is an injury that's going to sting a little bit, but I will say that it's mitigated. Not just, Kalia Davis notwithstanding, I think we need to give some love and some shine to Javon Kinlaw, who's actually been able to make a name for himself this year. And while the absence of Eric Armstead is going to hurt, that defensive line is chock full of talent. And you're looking at an offense that scores a ton of points. They've been able to limit a lot of teams that are number one in the NFL in scoring defense. I just feel like that absence, while it will sting, is not going to be something that's going to suddenly turn the tide in favor of Seattle. I think it would take a lot more than that. And I would actually more worry about the fact that Reed and Clark are out. To me, that speaks to the fact that Christian McCaffrey is going to have himself a day tomorrow. That's what that looks like to me. And if Christian McCaffrey is having himself a day, that means that's going to open everything up for Debo. It's going to open everything up for Brandon Ayuk. Brock Purdy, great at getting the ball out. George Kittle's been a beast the last 5 or 6 weeks. It's going to be hard for Seattle to take advantage of the absence of Eric Armstead if they can't run the ball up the middle, which is where that absence is going to be felt the most. Because on the outside, you still have to deal with Chase Young. You still have to deal with Nick Bosa. You still have to deal with Javon Hargrave. And then you're just kind of plugging in a big body with Javon Kinlaw there. And with those other 3 guys, it's not going to be what we saw where Javon Kinlaw gets blown off the line of scrimmage by a double team block. They're going to have their hands full with everybody else. And I believe that that's going to work to the 49ers' favor in terms of limiting what the damage is from Eric Armstead not being in there.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought up Javon Kinlaw because he was kind of thought of as an afterthought, right? And I know a lot of players spoke about it after his performance versus the Eagles last week. We saw how everybody was talking about him. Look, in my opinion, nobody went unfairly after Javon Kinlaw. It was what he showed on tape that was a little discouraging to see. It seemed like he quit on a lot of plays last year, and that's why fans were kind of souring on him. But I'll give him his flowers. He's looked much better this year, and he's looked like the effort is there. I could not believe this, Matt, when they said Javon Kinlaw got the sack, I believe on the Eagles' second drive, that was his first in 3 years. That was his first sack in 3 years. So, I mean, I'm happy he got it, but damn, how did it go that long on this defensive line? It just goes to show everybody else was eating up. I mean, clearly Bosa was getting them when he wasn't. So shout out to him, but I really do think just without Eric Armstead, Kinlaw, and hey, the 49ers just went out and signed the number 1 defensive free agent this past offseason, Javon Hargrave. It's time for both of, Javon and Javon to step up because that's what needs to happen when you have a position group as deep as the 49ers defensive line. One absence should not impact the game that much. Throwback says, Zach, reminder, the 49ers sacked Geno Smith 5 times and forced 86 pressures. I assume that's over the past 4 games. If so, that's 86 pressures can't be from one game, right? Throwback, am I reading that correctly? I can't imagine.
That would be wild. That would be wild.
I can't imagine. I wanted to share this because I see there's already some comments in the chat about Purdy, MVP, yada, yada. I saw this from Doug Clausen. and I couldn't believe it myself. 49ers are on pace to be the first team with a 4,000-yard passer, 4 1,000 scrimmage yard players, that's CMC, Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle, since the 2004 Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, and Brandon Stokely. That team, Peyton Manning won MVP. So, Matt, for some reason, people like to cheapen Purdy's success by saying, well, he's surrounded by an all-star cast. I could go in there and play quarterback at this level. Yet I don't ever see anybody say, well, Peyton got carried in 2004, or, Tom got carried when he had Randy Moss and, all these other weapons. Why is that only an argument used against Brock Purdy? Is it simply because of his draft status?
I think so. And by the way, let me just also throw out there that the 49ers are on track, provided, that Debo keeps up his latest statistical output, to be the first team in NFL history to have 4 1,000-yard receivers between CMC, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Debo Samuel. What Brock Purdy is doing should not be overlooked. I shared an article in the group chat today. Greg Cosell was on, I can't remember.
Ross Tucker.
There you go. Ross Tucker's podcast, talking about the things that every NFL team missed on tape that Brock Purdy does well. And the two things that he singled out was the fact that Brock Purdy is really, really good at reading late rolling coverages, which means that he knows exactly where to go with the ball once he sees that coverage adjustment. And the other thing that he's really good at is throwing with anticipation. Now, some people out there, Stephen Ruiz, would have you believe that throwing with anticipation is akin to guessing. It's not. You're saying, essentially, by saying Brock would be guessing, and he used 2015 Peyton Manning as an example, which is a terrible example, because what you're insinuating is that Peyton Manning somehow got dumb, didn't know the playbook, didn't know where receivers were supposed to be. Peyton Manning wasn't good in 2015 because his body fell apart, not because his mind fell apart. And that's what happens to a lot of the great quarterbacks. What Brock Purdy is showing with his anticipation is the fact that he knows his playbook inside and out and has a great feel for his receivers. The third thing that I think that Brock Purdy does at an elite level that we have not seen from this 49ers team is the ability to layer throws at different levels. He is able to get the ball over linebackers' heads, underneath safeties, in a way that past 49ers quarterbacks have not. Jimmy Garoppolo was not doing that. Colin Kaepernick was not doing that. Alex Smith wouldn't even take the chance to throw the ball down the field to do that. Brock Purdy pushes the ball down the field, and there are some people that still throw out the narrative that he is, a yak merchant, a check down merchant, all these things. The truth is that Brock Purdy leads the NFL in a lot of statistical categories, and people are just married to this narrative. And the longer it goes on, the dumber they look. Brock Purdy has elevated this offense, this quarterback play. Is he the best quarterback in the NFL? I would say no. I mean, I think that's pretty fair to say that he's not, at the top end of the NFL. But is he like a top 10 guy at the very least? Is he, in terms of efficiency, is he a top 10 guy? Absolutely. Is he the best quarterback that the 49ers could have hoped for when they picked him? Absolutely. I mean, they ran a guy out of town that they spent a ton of draft capital on, and he's nowhere to be seen. This guy took the league by storm. People don't like upsetting the apple cart. People don't like having to reevaluate their failures in terms of evaluations, and he's making everybody look silly. The longer they discount him, the dumber they look. I just think that he's done a great job of, taking the talent that's already here and elevating them. It's the same thing that we saw with every great quarterback. They all have great supporting casts, and it's no wonder that a lot of people would say Patrick Mahomes is having a little bit of a down year. Why is that? Because he has no receiver help. He does not have the weapons that he's typically had. When people look at the Philadelphia game and say, Brock Purdy, everything was yak. It didn't look good. He didn't do anything. And it's like, okay, but when Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, he never just threw a tunnel screen and let Tyreek Hill do the work. It's just preposterous that, every great coach, every Super Bowl winning coach has had a great quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback. Every Hall of Fame quarterback that's won Super Bowls has had a great supporting cast. That's the nature of it. Football is the ultimate team game. It's the ultimate role-playing game. It's the ultimate turn-based RPG, the ultimate strategy game. It's literally the physical embodiment of chess. It's not just one piece. It takes everybody. And when you have somebody that can elevate other people the way Brock Purdy can, it becomes a symbiotic thing. Sometimes the team elevates Brock Purdy. Sometimes Brock Purdy is able to elevate the team. That's just plain and simple.
Exactly. And I just think from what we've seen out of Brock, for some reason, people need a reminder that he's only in his second year and he didn't come into the league last year as the starter. Like, people forget he was the third string. And I mean, technically he was the fourth when Jimmy was kind of signed and then not signed. And, Nate Sudfeld was here and they guaranteed him like $1 million or $2 million to be the backup. But the third string gets like 1 to 2 reps per practice. They don't invest much in the third string. So he took what he had and ran with it. And I was listening to KNBR, believe it was the morning roast with Bonte and Joe Shasky last week or 2 weeks ago. And Bill Romanowski was there, Romo, the original Romo. And he was talking about how he spoke with Mike Shanahan. And Mike Shanahan told him a story about that offseason last year, Brock's rookie year. He ran into Brock in the hallways of the facility and he kind of told him, I've been watching you practice. I think you have it. And your chance is going to come. And once it does, you need to make sure you're ready for it because I think you could really be a successful quarterback here. And what did we hear? All we've ever heard is how much Brock dug deep in the books, stayed after on practice. Christian McCaffrey was the first to say once he got traded here, Brock Purdy was the one staying after to help me get acclimated with the playbook, help me understand, the calls, help me understand just how Kyle likes things. So his work ethic, I think, is exactly to credit for what we're seeing out on the field right now. And Matt, you brought up Yak, and I wanted to share this stat. This is from First Things First, which I typically like to avoid because I can't stand that show. But Chris Broussard brought up this stat. Let me change the graphic here. Bear with me, guys. This is the current rank of Yak for Purdy and the last, 5 MVP winners. So Purdy's at 48.6% of his total yards come from yards after the catch. Last year, Mahomes was at 54.3%. 2 years ago, Rodgers at 52.7%. 3 years ago, Rodgers again was at 52.3. Lamar, 43.5. So he's the only one that's lower. And then Mahomes again in 18 was at 51.2. I believe the league average is about 48%. So he's right at, 47%. So he's right just barely above the league average and well below most of the previous MVPs as far as what percentage of their yards come after the catch, which is something I've actually never really heard to discredit a quarterback before prior to this year. But that's where we're at in the discourse is, well, he only gets it from yards after the catch.
Yeah, and what's weird is the fact that you're punishing Brock Purdy for these playmakers being good, but I mean, let's go. 2018, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. I would say 2019 Lamar is the outlier, but Mark Andrews was good. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of what Lamar Jackson won MVP on was as much his legs as it was his arm. Yep. When you look at 2020 Rodgers, 2021 Rodgers, you have Devontae Adams there. You have a good running back core. You had a good offensive line. You had receivers that Aaron Rodgers helped elevate, but you had a superstar there. 2022 Patrick Mahomes last year, there was a lot of players on that team that were really, really good. Travis Kelce, of course, Juju Smith-Schuster at the time. There was a lot there to help them. And one of the things that these quarterbacks do that helps separate them is you put the ball in your playmakers' hands in a way that allows them to work in space. And Brock Purdy does that really well. He'll put the ball in an area where a receiver can make a move. He'll turn them away from contact. He will throw 2 penalties. It's thank you, by the way, pardon my wave. Appreciate you. I will take that compliment for sure. And this is a guy in his second year, by the way, doing this stuff. So you can't punish a guy for having good weapons. I mean, look at all the great quarterbacks in history. 49ers throwback says it perfect. Joe Montana had Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Roger Craig, Brent Jones. It goes beyond that. Steve Young also had Jerry Rice. He had Ricky Waters. He had John Taylor. He had all these guys. He had a fantastic defense with, Deion Sanders and, Dana Stubblefield, like the list goes on and on and on. And you look at Tom Brady, the undefeated season. He had Randy Moss and he had Corey Dillon and he had Julian Edelman. You have all these players that are really good. Peyton Manning had Marvin Harrison and, just on and on and on. you can't just discount Brock Purdy because he has good weapons. The whole point of great teams is it's never just one guy. Name me any team in history that was predominantly built off the back of one player that's made a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl. You can't do it because it doesn't exist. Plain and simple.
Exactly. And that's just the dumbest argument. I think what Brock is doing here, we haven't ever seen before. Like the success he had prior to this year even starting was something we had never seen before from somebody with his draft position. I said it multiple times on the show, but a Mr. Irrelevant quarterback had never even completed an NFL pass in an actual season game before. And he comes in, lights up the Dolphins, and continues on that streak. You know, the 49ers didn't lose a game until Cleveland this year. Obviously, they lost the championship game, but a game that he started and finished healthy. Didn't lose that until, week 6 of this year. So it's just insane. And any game, I saw a stat on X this week that when the 49ers start and finish a game with Brock, Debo, and Trent, they are 16-0 since Purdy came in the lineup. Like, it's just insane. And I know a lot of people, for some reason, which you obviously don't know ball if you're trying to say that, well, anybody could be good behind that offensive line. The 49ers have like one of the worst offensive lines in football. And there's this stat here from at Throw the Damn Ball on X. The x-axis is percentage of plays with no blocking mistakes, which you could see Brock is not that high. The 49ers offensive line is not that many. And EPA on plays with no blocking mistakes. Look at how high Brock Purdy is. He's an outlier. Like, he's just a 100% outlier on this chart. He's getting almost no help and doing it all on himself.
By the way, so's Jimmy Garoppolo in the worst possible way.
That's true. They're literally opposites. Like, they're literally opposites on this chart. So it's just, if you think the 49ers offensive line is to credit for Brock Purdy's success, you clearly don't know anything about how this team is built. Have they been good? They've been okay. They haven't been great. They're below average. I think Brock Purdy actually does a lot to make them better, make them appear better than they actually are. He gets the ball out quickly. His pocket presence has been improved. And one thing, Matt, that we talked about last year that I haven't seen him do this year is run out the back of the pocket when he feels pressure. How many times do we see him turn and run like 10 yards back trying to evade pressure last year? I haven't seen that once this year. So I'm happy he's actually working on things and improving as a quarterback and as a player. And he's quicker than people think and arguably stronger than they think too. We saw him bounce off of 2 defenders versus the Eagles.
Yeah, like you said, quicker than he thinks. His 10-yard shuttle is identical, or his 10-yard split is identical to Lamar Jackson's. So the get-off is there. I think it's just a narrative that people don't want to let go of. They don't want Mr. Irrelevant to be able to be a franchise quarterback. It took time for Tom Brady to get past that too. And I think that it's a combination not only of the Mr. Irrelevant thing, it's the fact that he's not a big guy, It's the fact that he doesn't have a howitzer for an arm. It's the fact that he doesn't have these ridiculous physical traits that everybody seems to fall in love with. And it's the fact that by admitting that Brock Purdy is something special, it's admitting that a ton of people made a mistake in not identifying him sooner. And, we're to the point now where the criticism has just reached Neanderthal levels. When your critiques of Brock Purdy are essentially, arm strength, or you have your little BS ranking system where you rank him below college quarterbacks because for some reason you're an idiot. And Tom Brady who's retired because you just don't want to admit that you were wrong about this kid, that your only thing is that you love arm strength. It just, when your critique of Brock Purdy is that he can't be a franchise quarterback because he wears a backwards fucking hat. At that point, come on, man. At that point, you're saying the quiet part out loud. You just don't want to be wrong about this kid. And it's absolutely ridiculous. There's things in the chat. Jalen Hurts has the best offensive line. I mean, they have a pretty good offensive line. Dallas has a pretty good offensive line. There are teams that have really good offensive lines that are putting out their MVP candidate, and everybody's denigrating and downplaying what Brock Purdy is doing because they just don't want to be wrong. I think it's going to come back and bite him in the ass, and I can't wait when it does.
Also, just like the backwards hat thing. Don't forget, Mike Florio said earlier this year he can't be a great quarterback because his name rhymes with turdy. Because his name rhymes with turdy. Like, it's just one of the stupidest
Right.
things. It's a bit. It has to be a bit.
These guys must sit in a meeting together and be like, what's a way that we can create controversy?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. We have it on all sides. Everybody's got their gimmick. Everybody's got their thing that they like to throw out there. The Brock Purdy thing, though, is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, going back to, and, I would say I don't mean to hammer on Steven Ruiz, but he kind of deserves all the criticism coming his way. When he's answering comments saying like, oh, a ton of people who look at film don't think that he's good. And people are like, well, JT O'Sullivan thinks he's good, and Kurt Warner thinks he's good. And these were like former NFL quarterbacks, right? Greg Cosell, who's very respected in the game, thinks that he's good. Give us some examples of people who are in the know that don't think he's good, and he can't provide any links.
Zero response.
Zero response to that. It's wolf tickets.
Yeah.
It's wolf tickets. It's BS.
Yeah.
He has no intention of being open-minded about it. And that's the most frustrating part. It's okay to say that you were wrong. It's okay to say that you didn't know. We do that on this show all the time. Yeah. I famously say, I didn't think that Patrick Mahomes was going to be good. And he's incredible. I missed on that. I thought that Trey Lance was going to be really good. He didn't work out. It's okay to be wrong. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't get it, but people are going to hate. And I kind of enjoy the fact that people are overlooking the 49ers, overlooking Brock Purdy, because when he finally is able to shut people up, I think it's going to be a resounding sound of silence.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That Steven Ruiz tweet, that thread where he's talking about, oh, I can't believe people think he's good. And, there are plenty of people who watch film that are respected that don't think he's good. Last I checked, there were 36 responses of people asking him, could you share their links? Could you share who it is that's posting this content, breaking down why Purdy isn't good? And he did not respond to a single one of them. So in my opinion, this guy is not a serious person. He should not be treated as such. At the very least, his quarterback rankings and quarterback evaluations should not be taken seriously, because if you can't admit you're wrong on an evaluation years after the fact, then the stuff I'm reading isn't worth, the screen it's typed on, the keyboard it's typed on. I was going to say the paper it's printed on, but nothing's printed anymore. I saw this talking about the 49ers offensive line and Jalen Hurts offensive line with the Eagles. Hurts had 3.72 seconds time to throw on average on Sunday, and Brock Purdy had 2.85 seconds on average time to throw. I mean, it just an entire second more. And you could see that was the 49ers game plan. Let's just not be over aggressive. Let's stay in our lanes, not allow him to rush up and find a running lane, and force him to play quarterback through the pocket. And ultimately it worked. I mean, I know he had 100 and something extra yards in garbage time that Eagles fans are championing, but most of the game, he was not effective. He was not a good passer, and the game just was not there for him to take. Also, last thing on Purdy and MVP talk, versus winning teams, which I think is the most important stat, or I guess, matchups you want to look about for a quarterback if you really want to determine how they're playing and should they be an MVP candidate. Purdy is 4-1 against winning teams this season, averages 9.1 yards per pass, 14-1 touchdown to interception ratio with 125.7 passer rating. Dak Prescott, on the other hand, is 0-2 versus winning teams, average 7.8 yards per pass, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions with an 88.3 passer rating. So you can't sit there and tell me that Dak Prescott's a legitimate MVP candidate, but Brock Purdy is not, when Brock Purdy has better numbers against tougher competition. It's a complete joke. So the discourse has gone way too far, and I think people need to go outside, touch some grass, and if you could just take away the name and put the stats, you would be 100% in agreement that this player should be at the top of MVP conversations. But for some reason, the name is just divisive amongst the NFL circle, All right, man, let's get back to this game. I had to bring that up because it's something that's been on my mind. We haven't talked about it much on this show. By the way, shout out to our guy, Mike. He can't make it for this show, but he'll hopefully be back with us tomorrow to do the recap show. Matt and I are holding it down here. All right.
Which, by the way, speaking of Mike, we're waiting for him to address the elephant in the room. I know that we had some discourse last week. There is a certain wager that we need resolved. That will happen when Mike joins us next, hopefully tomorrow night on the recap show. I think there is a matter of a hoodie that needs to be solved. So stay tuned for that.
Exactly. All right. So this game, we went into the injuries, went into the line. I think all that's left now to do is, what do you expect? What are maybe the 49ers' keys to victory to make sure they really don't, fall asleep at the wheel and drop one to Seattle? This is a desperate team. Anything can happen any given Sunday. This team is fighting for their playoff lives. And I believe if they lose tomorrow, that will be 4 straight that they lose after at one point having the number 1 seed in the NFC West. Number 1 spot, in the NFC West. So what are the 49ers' keys to victory tomorrow?
Yeah, so we know that typically speaking, when they win the toss, they like to defer. I think one of the biggest keys that you can get out of this game to getting off the field, with a big win early, is to shut them down on that first drive. And then when you get that punt, take the ball right down the field and score. The 49ers are a really good team at scoring first drive touchdowns and getting points on the board first. Their time trailing hasn't been, the most in the NFL. They typically, in their wins, they have a lead, they keep the lead. Getting easy wins in spots where you can get off the field, I think is going to be key. And then to me, you got to keep the penalties down. They've kept the penalties down lately, and it's been very, very good. They got to continue to do so. Hopefully the adjustments that they've made stick. And they're able to keep the penalty yards down. If they're doing that, that means that they're covering well, and it's going to be an easy game if they can do those things.
For me, it has to be 7. Charvarius Ward, he's locked down DK Metcalf. He followed him on Thanksgiving. I think he only allowed 3 receptions for 32 yards. Clearly, he was in his head. He was extremely frustrated, dropping easy passes, hearing footsteps, as they say. And then we saw last Thursday, he went off. He had 7 catches, 150 yards, multiple touchdowns. Deron Bland is no Charvarius Ward. And I'm not taking anything away from him. The dude has 6 pick sixes this year, or whatever number he has. It's crazy. But as far as coverage, it's not great. Oh, we have a guest, ladies and gentlemen. We have our guy, Mike Andrews. Let me change the screen here so we can let him in. What's up?
Yeah.
There he is.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know I was going to be doing this, but we've been over here chilling. We're having a good time tonight. Uh-oh. Where y'all going? Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry about that.
What is the current topic of discussion? I've been over here tearing it up tonight, fellas.
Keys to victory for the 49ers tomorrow against the Seattle Seahawks.
Run the ball well. Time of possession. That is my biggest key to victory for this game tomorrow.
Okay. All right. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I was talking about how Ward needs to continue his dominant performances. What we need from him is I don't know if we necessarily need a lockdown, but they can't allow DK Metcalf to have the type of game he had last week against the Dallas Cowboys, because he went off, and the 49ers, I know he had a good game in that wild card matchup last year, but most of it came on that one big pass before halftime. I think if Ward continues to lock down DK Metcalf, and don't get me wrong, they have 2 other really good receivers, the 49ers can live with that. I mean, they beat the Eagles last week 14-19, and A.J. Brown had over 100 yards. They're totally fine with the receiver having triple digits receiving yards as long as they stop them in the end zone. And that could also be another key to victory is red zone defense. We saw the Eagles drive down the field twice to start the game last week. Could have easily been 14-0, but it wasn't. It was 6-0, and one possession later, the 49ers took the lead, and they never gave it back up. So really, really impressive stuff from the 49ers. Matt, did you have any other keys to victory, or did you?
No, I pretty much agree with you. Mistake-free football is going to be the name of the game. And like I said, getting out early. You got to get out early, get points on the board, force them to play from behind. Whether it's Geno Smith, whether it's Drew Lock, the opportunities are going to be there to force them to make mistakes. If the 49ers can force the Seahawks to make more mistakes than they make, it's going to be a pretty easy day. The 49ers are a much better team, not only on paper, but on the field. We've seen it already. This should continue tomorrow with the 49ers, and I'm predicting a dominant victory, to be honest.
Yeah. Likewise, looks like we lost Mike. I'm sure he'll be back. I just really think this 49ers team is just too good for this Seahawks team. And I think they just simply outmatch them offense and defense. I saw a stat earlier that the 49ers, I don't know if it's just PFF or if it's like overall rankings as well, but they have the number 1 ranked defense and the number 1 ranked offense. I can't remember the last time the 49ers had an offense this good. I know 2019, they had a pretty good offense, but in my opinion, it's nothing compared to this offense. 6 straight touchdown drives that had, 6 straight scoring drives that ended in touchdowns. As a 49ers fan, when's the last time you remember that in one game?
I definitely, it's been a long time. I can't remember the last time any team has scored 6 straight touchdowns on offense. I mean, maybe that Dolphins Broncos game earlier this year where, 70-20 or whatever, but 6 straight touchdown drives by the 49ers. You're absolutely correct. This 49ers offense has been the most potent that it's been probably since the Steve Young era, to be honest. It's looking incredible, and I look for that to continue tomorrow with 2 key defensive linemen out for the Seattle Seahawks.
Mike, do you have some of that?
In addition to the run game being pivotal tomorrow, in the event that Geno Smith doesn't play, the Niners cannot be caught lacking by another backup quarterback. Backup quarterbacks have been the Achilles heel for the 49ers defense since every defensive coordinator we've had here. Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, and even Steve Wilkes. These guys all fall susceptible to the attacks of opposing backup quarterbacks. Have you guys discussed that already?
Just a little bit.
We did. And my take on it was they've struggled against unknown quarterbacks, right? PJ Walker, Colt McCoy famously, those type of guys. But the fact of the matter is, for me, Drew Lock is known to stink. He's known and stinky. So I don't think the 49ers will have a tough time with him. I would actually make a bet the 49ers would have over 2 picks against Drew Lock. He sucks.
So I thought about that, right? Like, we've seen Drew Lock. He's not this established, really good guy. Otherwise, he'd be a starter, right? But I think the same could be said for guys like PJ Walker, right? I think the same could be said for guys like Colt McCoy. Neither of those guys were lighting the NFL up as starters, and they still came in and were admirable foes for the 49ers. Hell, I mean, can you guys tell me another game that Stidham looked as good as he did, other than when he played against the 49ers when he first got in there? There's no game where Stidham looked that good since he got.
For me, though, the difference is the type of player that those guys are, right? Colt McCoy is a check down accuracy guy. That's where the 49ers have a lot of trouble, is near the line of scrimmage. To me, Drew Lock is more of a gunslinger type of guy that wants to push the ball down the field, a guy that will spray the ball around the field and be inaccurate in spots. That's where I think the 49ers can take advantage. It's not like Drew Lock is he's a little mobile, but he's not on the level of a PJ Walker or somebody like that. Drew Lock, to me, is a guy that they can force to make mistakes. He doesn't have the accuracy component on his side to make the 49ers pay in space where they can be hurt the most. And by the way, they did handle Josh Dobbs earlier this year.
I wanted to come in for one main reason, though, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, and that is to discuss the hoodie. A lot of people have been tweeting us about who won the hoodie with the Dom, whatever the hell his last name is, situation. Do you guys want to discuss that really quick? I wanted to make sure
we can do that. Yeah, I wanted to wait for you, but since you're here, we can do that for sure. Zach, you have the video, right?
Yeah, let me pull it up here.
I think it's the 35-second one is the pertinent one.
Got it. Let me upload it, or I could just play it from WhatsApp. Probably directly would be easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
Now, while Zach is pulling that up, guys, this was a very specific bet that Matt and I made. Matt made his thoughts, and then I specified afterwards. So this is very important to pay attention to the details so you guys understand who exactly won and lost the bet, and then where we're going from there. So that's what this video is for.
All right, I'm going to share it here. If I play it, it might put us away because I uploaded it. So we'll be back after we play the clip. Here we go.
This is an NFL game. This was a bang-bang play that happened on the sideline, and you put your hands on a player. You're done, dude. You're done, and you deserve to be, you greasy, fat piece of shit. Like, you can't put hands on people like that. And as somebody who is – what's that?
While I agree with you in spirit, he'll be right back on the sideline next week.
I bet you he won't.
I will bet you, Matt, I'll bet you a hoodie. You pick the hoodie, I pick the hoodie. I bet you a hoodie he will be right back on the sidelines next week. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell.
I forgot how you referred to him, Matt.
Yeah, well, whatever. We're 47 minutes in. We're allowed to have it at this point, I guess.
Yeah, he was behaving like a greasy, fat piece of shit. I mean, that's what I would argue. And it's not the first time. If you went back and looked at the NFC Championship game pregame scuffle, you'll see he was out there in the midst of all the players as well. So it's not like this is the first time this guy's done this type of stuff, which is ridiculous because why do you think you can put your hands on a player? I have no idea, but apparently he felt comfortable enough to do so. In case you guys missed it, it was reported earlier today from, was it Adam Schefter, that he will be banned from the sidelines for this week. Make of it what you will.
By the way, the last part of that was that's just this week. The NFL is still investigating to see if further disciplinary action will be necessary. So he could still end up being permanently banned. We don't know that for sure yet, but it is at least for this week.
In my opinion, it should be stronger consequences because I know it didn't really change the impact of this game, but could you just imagine like a 21-24 playoff game and one of your best players, Drake Greenlaw was a leading tackler at that point in the game, just gets kicked out. And what happens? Oh, it's okay. We're also losing our head of security. I don't give a fuck. It makes no impact on the game. And the announcer goes, oh, it's 1-for-1. 49ers lose Greenlaw. Eagles lose this guy. It's not 1-for-1. He was a key player in the game. And again, luckily it didn't impact this, but there now is an incentive for teams to have a player get riled up.
Exactly what my point was. And Shanahan kind of joked about that, right? Like, oh, are you guys, what's going to happen now? Is this incentivizing people to, and, he kind of joked like, oh, wait till you see what we do, because people in the know understand that if this is how it's going to be with the precedent going forward, why wouldn't you have a goon on the sideline? And by the way, people have pointed out that last year in the NFC Championship game, the dude was on the field when Trent Williams went after that player. And it's like, all right, so you're not actually stadium security. You're just like a glorified bodyguard. Yeah. And to that end, why are you going after other players? Just sit your ass on the sideline and do your thing.
To point out Zach's point, right? Like, not only was Drake Greenlaw the team, he finished the game tied as a leading tackler after getting kicked out damn near halfway through the game. Like Jair Brown and Drake Greenlaw finished with the same amount of tackles to lead the team. Imagine if Drake finished that game. He would have easily been the team's leading tackler. So this was a very pivotal player that was removed from the fray. So
and by the way,
it was not equal at all.
No. And by the way, I think the NFL is telling you that it wasn't equal due to the fact that, Eagles fans are calling for Dre Greenlaw to be suspended this week. Absolutely stupid, right? The NFL had to do something to Dre Greenlaw this week. That $10,000 is the most tepid endorsement of the fact that Dre Greenlaw didn't really commit that bad a penalty that you could have. We saw them try to levy a fine against Jaylen Warren from the Steelers. That was a much higher cost in terms of dollars. They rescinded that, of course, But the fact that they said, yeah, Dre Greenlaw, like 10 grand, that's a drop in the bucket in terms of NFL fines. That might be close to the minimum fine that they're going to hand out. You know, I don't think I've seen less than a $10,000 fine. So the NFL's telling me that Dre Greenlaw didn't make it wasn't a super dirty hit. It wasn't something that necessitated Dirty Dom stepping on the field and putting his fucking mozzarella fingers all over Dre Greenlaw. So I think that, you know, and by the way, the puff pieces about how he's such a good guy in the community, like,
who gives a shit?
Get bent. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
Keep your hands off the players.
Right. What, like when the spotlight was on you, you made yourself a part of the show. That's the problem. Your job is to sit back and do something entirely different. Be that as it may, I think Mike and I will agree that based on the wording of what Mike said, I have won this wager.
Oh, you said barbecue? Yeah, my stupid ass went out there and specified next week as opposed to for the rest of the season. I had Matt right where I wanted him. It was over because Matt was like, oh, he's done for the season. I was like, no, next week he's going to be right back out there, and Matt was right. So the good thing is the faithful win, and that's what we're all about. That's what we're going to stand on right now. The faithful win this bet. And you guys can go ahead and dictate how that's going to come about. But as soon as we pick the winner, we will contact that winner and we will go ahead and get them the hoodie ordered and delivered immediately. So I am very excited about that. There's no bitterness about it or whatever. This is going to be really, really good for all parties involved.
Absolutely. I think we should do this in a fun way. I think the way that we should do this, and we should reward the people that are here for this right now. If you are in the chat, please put your prediction down. I'm going to say Brock Purdy passing yards. The person that gets closest to Brock Purdy passing yards will be the winner of the hoodie. All right, let's do it that way. Now, the only thing left to decide, guys, are we doing Price is Right rules, or are we doing just closest no matter what?
I think we should do closest. I don't care about the over or under.
All right, no Price is Right rules. Closest doesn't matter if you're one over or one under. The closest Brock Purdy passing yards is going to win the hoodie. So go ahead and comment in the chat. You have until kickoff. Anybody who watches the replay of this also has an opportunity. Please post your comments on YouTube or tag us on X or Instagram so that we can see them prior to the game. We will be reviewing it. Whoever gets closest to Brock Purdy passing yards does win this hoodie. I won the bet, but the faithful wins, like Mike said. And honestly, it's all love, and it was a fun thing to discuss.
By the way, I just want to say real quick, Dre Greenlaw basically did the same exact tackle earlier in the game. I want to say it was like midway through the second quarter, and it wasn't flagged. Nobody even got up getting crazy about it. It was a simple, he grabbed the player by the waist and spun him around. He's done it a handful of times. And to his defense, Devontae Smith weighs as much as about my 3-year-old nephew. You know, like the dude's a piece of paper out there. And the Eagles fans tried to say, well, he tackled him after the whistle. If you watch the play, he's already mid-spin when the ref blows the whistle. Like, what is he supposed to do? And Dre Greenlaw even said that, you know, I tried letting up, but he's so light that the momentum just carried him. You know, like there was no resistance from his end. So Devontae Smith, They call you the Slim Reaper. Maybe put on some pounds. I don't know what to tell you.
And here's my thing. Like, you want these guys to play to the whistle, but then, you know, if you didn't want Devontae Smith to get picked up, as soon as Dre Greenlaw, like, was coming up, you should have blown the damn whistle because somebody else kind of had him.
Yep.
Right? You don't want Dre Greenlaw. You want him right on that line. And by the way, I don't think the team was upset with what Dre Greenlaw did in terms of that tackle. Nobody sounded upset on the 49ers, really.
If I get this number on the head for Brock Purdy passing yards, can we agree that nobody out there gets a hoodie? If I get the number on the head for Brock Purdy passing yards, I've already owned that I lost the bet because of how I specified going into this week. But I want to make this hard for them. Pause. If I specify right now on the air the exact number, I mean literally the exact number, not +1 plus -1. If I give the exact number of passing yards for Brock Purdy and I get it right, is it screw everybody out there? I want y'all to say yes or no.
Bro,
That's up to Matt.
This is the guy. This is the guy that like takes off his Rolex after all his fucking chips are gone and be like, "Let me just get one more, homie. Let me just get one more." You know what? I think we gotta respect the sanctity of the bet. That's what I think. Damn, Ian Sharp said cash problems.
Wow, fuck you, dude. I got no problem buying five hoodies, jerseys, whatever. I got no problem purchasing that shit right now. So let me be very clear here, but I want to make y'all earn it because the closest is just going to be whoever participates, right? Like, I can tell you guys right now without a shadow of a doubt that Brock Purdy's going to throw this ball right now for 272 yards. Nothing more, nothing less. But if y'all don't have the balls to take the bet either way, that's cool. But 272 yards, 272 is what Brock Purdy's going to pass for on
All right,
Sunday.
everybody that's in the chat right now, if you want to accept Mike's terms, press 1. If you think he should hold that shit, press 2, and we'll decide that way.
By the way, my bookie has his over-under at 260.5. Make of that what you
There
will.
you go.
That's his over-under passing yard total for my bookie.
What is it at?
260.5.
Oh, I almost said 262. So 272 is where I feel because of the yards after catch. So I like it.
Getting more ones than twos so far. Go ahead.
Anybody that wants to vote, you got like 1 minute to throw your stuff in the chat if you want.
All jokes aside, man. All jokes aside, I am very happy to go ahead and give this thing away to whoever wins this one, and I can't wait to make the purchase. We will contact you guys after the game. We'll get your address and everything. So make sure you guys put your comments in right now. Yeah, we'll get your address and your size, and we'll order this immediately and have it shipped to you directly. We'll send you a screenshot and all that good stuff. So don't you guys worry one bit at all. We hope you guys win this. This is not for us. Matt and I, immediately after the initial video, we're like, dude, we're not going to take this from the other person. Like, let's just go ahead and give it away. So just so you guys know, we have nothing to gain here. We have always been about the people, the supporters of these channels. It's all for you guys. So I don't want you to think that there's any bad blood, any kind of loopholes or trying to get out of it. It's all for fun. We want you guys to win this. We hope you guys win this. So let's go and get it.
I honestly, I see more ones in the chats than two. So I think that's bet. I think that's bet.
Maybe I'm in on this bet.
If it's 272, nobody gets shit.
I had to log into my account real quick and comment.
Right.
All right. Are we going with more ones than twos? Is that what we're deciding?
I think we're going with more ones. I'm counting more ones than twos.
Right.
That's for sure.
All right.
All right. There it is.
Let's do it, guys.
And by the way, remember, everybody, you have until kickoff to comment how many passing yards will Brock Purdy have against the Seattle Seahawks. The closest person will get a hoodie, unless it's 272 on the dot. Then Mike's the winner. So, and remember also, we're doing our final score predictions as well. You have a chance to win a 49ers jersey if you get the final score correct too. So if somebody's especially, prescient and can see into the future, they can have 2 pieces of merch for nothing, for just guessing. So, it looks like Mike has his shades on. He's ready to pick these offensive and defensive MVPs and then our final score prediction. So let's jump right into that. Mike, why don't you kick us off, man? Offensive player of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to go right away, straight out the gate. The offensive player of this week against the Seattle Seahawks is going to be none other than my guy, Christian McCaffrey. I started the show by saying, the run game. Well, I started my portion of the show. I wasn't here for the whole thing, but Christian McCaffrey in the run game for the 49ers is going to be key. I think he's going to be pivotal in the passing game, in the run game. Christian McCaffrey is a linchpin to all things successful for the 49ers. He is absolutely going to be my player of the game on the offensive side of the ball. I got Christian McCaffrey running for about 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 catches for 75 yards. Christian McCaffrey going out there and having himself a day for the 49ers.
Okay. I'll go next. Offensive MVP, I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. I think this young man's MVP contention race performances continue. I'm going to go Brock Purdy, 26 of 30, 313 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Matt, what do you got?
I think that George Kittle continues his hot streak. I think George Kittle finishes over 100 yards again with a pair of touchdowns. He's been absolutely lights out. Debo got the bulk of the work last week, which means Debo needs a little bit of a week off this week. I think that George Kittle's going to get it done.
Can we just talk about real quick how difficult it is to predict who the hell is going to score for this team? Last week, I put together a parlay bet. McCaffrey and Kittle would score. Just about everybody else scored but George Kittle. I mean, shit. I was like, okay, they scored 6 touchdowns. You're telling me not one of those went to George Kittle? Not one of the other 5 went to George Kittle, but that's all right because Debo scored, McCaffrey scored, Ayuk scored, and Jennings scored. So I'll take it. So just keep that in mind when you are making your parlay bets. Mike, defensive player of the week. Who do you got?
This is going to be a little unconventional. Eric Armstead is out, so I'm going to give this to a guy that has not been the focal point of 49ers defenses, of the position group, of the defense overall. I'm actually going to give this one to Javon Kinlaw. I think that they're going to depend on him a lot more than they normally do. Kinlaw has not been a disappointment so far this season because they have only asked him to be a rotational player. But in the absence of Eric Armstead, our Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate, they're going to need him to step up just a tad bit more. I'm not looking for sacks. I am not looking for even tackles, but I am looking for him to be a linchpin and a stopgap in the run defense as well as the pass defense. Javon Kinlaw is going to have to go out there and have himself a very, very solid game. Just don't be a liability. I don't expect him to have the most tackles. I don't expect him to have interceptions. I don't expect him to have tip passes. But what I do expect is for Javon Kinlaw to be a solid guy in the middle of this 49ers defensive line. Show us why you were a first-round pick. He has done nothing but show that so far with every opportunity he's been given, and I expect that to continue. So my salute and shout-out is going to go to Javon Kinlaw. Let's go out there and be a monster in the middle of this defensive line. Let's go number 99, Javon Kinlaw.
Okay, all right. Matt, who do you got?
Listen, it's going to be the man of the hour, the man who wants to get back out there, the man who wants revenge. I'm going to go with Dre Greenlaw. I think he's going to get 9 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and, of course, 1 unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. He's going to go out there and he's going to whoop some Seahawk ass, and he's going to be like, Dom who? I'm wiping this grease off me, and we're getting back out there to make some plays. Javon Kinlaw is going to go out there and dominate sideline to sideline on Sunday.
I love it. I heard Peter King describe it best. At most, he looked like he was putting shaving cream on Dom's face. Eagles fans really are trying to say he got punched. If that's a punch, y'all are softer than cotton. I mean, I've never seen somebody get punched with the tiny little.
Yeah. You know what that was? That was smell my finger.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what that was.
Yep. It's crazy. It really is crazy.
If anybody thinks that was a punch, they've clearly never been in a real fight in their entire lives. Yeah. Like, I listen, guys, I've been jumped. I've been shot at before. I've been in one-on-one fights. And if you guys thought that what you saw on camera was even offensive in the least bit, you're a little bit soft. You're a little bit soft. I'm talking like Cottonelle, Charmin,
yep.
Like whatever brand of toilet paper or cotton swabs, I don't know, Johnson & Johnson soft, you guys need to have yourselves checked. That was not a punch. That was not a hit. That was not a swipe at or anything above. Like, you guys really need to have a look in the mirror and get yourselves checked. What happened was just incidental, and Greenlaw was an innocent bystander in the whole thing.
You know those people that for whatever happens, right? They could brush by something. It could be something soft. It could be a pillow or whatever. You know those people that go, ow, no matter what?
Yeah.
Those are the type of people that were offended by what Dre Greenlaw did to Dom. So essentially all Eagles fans.
Yeah, yeah. All right, my defensive player of the week is going to be Deommodore Lenoir, Demo. I think Lenoir has had a hell of a week. Prior to last week, in my opinion, the touchdown scored on him was OPI. It wasn't called. Prior to that, which was also in garbage time, he had gone 477 straight coverage snaps without giving up a touchdown, which would be number one in the NFL right now. It was going into last week. So he's just really good. Yeah, laid down the law, like Submit says, absolutely annihilated DeAndre Swift with a hell of a hit, just laid him out, clean hit. I think Lenoir is going to be great, and I'm going to say he gets a pick in this game and just locks down whoever he's on, whether it's Lockett, whether it's Jackson Smith and Jigba, whoever it is, Lenoir has got their number. We're going to be doing our final score predictions, but before we do, we got to give a thank you to today's sponsor, which is Mybookie. So let me pull up this header. There we go. All right, guys. Week 14 is here. Can you believe it? The season has gone by like that. I mean, seems like we were just talking about draft selections, training camp, Purdy throwing interceptions in practice. Wasn't that just like yesterday? Well, we're week 14. After today, there's only, 4 more weeks of the regular season, and then we get into the playoffs. If you're one of us that celebrates Christmas, one of the many, you need some extra cash in your pocket. MyBookie is here to help. Right now, you can go to Mybookie.ag, use our code HIVE, and get our deposit bonus all the way up to $1,000. You deposit $500, they match you $500. You deposit $1,000, they match you $1,000. Get that money matched, make some bets, bet on the 49ers to win, bet on McCaffrey and Ayuk to score a touchdown. The more legs in your parlay, the higher the payouts. I put together a 3-leg parlay with who's going to score the first touchdown in the Rams-Ravens game, the Bucks-Falcons game, and the Niners-Seahawks game. And the odds on that are insane. $1 is going to win me like $900 when this comes true, because I have full faith that it will. So right now, mybookie.ag, promo code HIVE, win anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie. All right, let's get into our final score predictions. Matt, I'm going to let you go first since I've just done all this talking. Who do you got and by how much?
Listen, this is going to be another one for the 49ers. I think it's going to be easy sledding down the road. I think with Geno Smith hampered, even if he starts, if Drew Lock starts, it ain't going to matter. I think it's going to be even worse beat down than last time. I got the 49ers 38, the Seahawks 10.
Damn. All right. Mike, final score. What do you got?
I got the 49ers winning this one 32-17. 32-17 for the Niners. I don't think it's necessarily going to be close. They better hope Geno Smith plays, but I'll be honest with you guys, if Geno does get in there, it's going to be even worse. Right now, my score is based off of Drew Lock being starting quarterback.
Damn.
Take it for what it's worth. Yeah, so if Geno is the guy, I think they get 10 points. 1 touchdown, 1 field goal.
Okay. All right. And guys, again, just a reminder, comment your final score predictions in the chat. If you get them right, you win some merch. Like Matt was saying earlier, you have the chance to win 2 free items of merch, a hoodie and something from our merch shop if you get it right. All right. My final score prediction, I got the 49ers in this one. We used to say Purdy 7 when Purdy was good for 30 or more. I think it's going to need to say 40. I'm going to say Brock and the 49ers offense lay down 42 yet again. I'm going to say 42-20. 49ers win this. It's going to be a much bigger blowout, and the Seahawks score a couple in garbage time to maybe bring it a little closer, but I just think the 49ers are that much better than this version of the Seahawks. We saw them win 31-13 2 weeks ago, and I think they're much better than that team that played 2 weeks ago. So it really is crazy, but that's how I feel. We'll see. We'll be back here live tomorrow evening, probably in between the PM games and Sunday Night Football. That's usually around when we go live. Follow us on X, though, so you can see exactly when we plan to go live. All of our handles on the screen. You can follow 49ers Hive as well. You can follow RGS Pod. We are very close to 1,000 followers on X, RGS Pod, so you never miss an episode. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Matt,
Chat Pack.
Chat Pack, thank you very much.
And while Zach's pulling up the Chat Pack, Sin, I see you in the chat. Throw down what you think Brock Purdy is going to get for passing yards. If you get it if you're the closest, you get to win the hoodie that me and Mike bet. I'm going to encourage all the new folks that came in a little late. You still have your opportunity. Put it in the chat. Brock Purdy passing yards. Closest one gets that hoodie. Damn, Sin said 375. That's big city living right there. I like it. I respect it.
All right, I got a good one. Got a good chat pack here. Whenever you are having a bad day, what is the best thing you can do to cheer yourself up? Whenever you are having a bad day, what is the best thing you can do to cheer yourself up? Chat, please share your answers in the chat as well. Love to hear them. I can go first if you guys want to think about it.
Yeah, man, go for it. Go for it.
I would have to, I got to say, going to the gym, just getting out that aggression, working, lifting weights, whatever it is. My gym doesn't have like a punching bag, but if it did, that would be sweet. But I go to the gym as it is, like 4 days a week. But when I have a really shitty day at work and I'm so stressed, my whole time I'm at work, I'm just thinking, I can't wait to take my pre-workout and go to the gym and just get all this aggression out because it helps so much. So that's my answer. Matt, Mike, who wants to go next? I see Sin say dance.
I got the cop-out answer, right? I have a 3-month-old daughter, and I'm never in a bad mood when I see her. That's a big thing. I could be having the worst day in the world. I come home, she sees me, she smiles, and it just like melts everything away. So right now I'm fortunate. I have built-in stress relief just because I'm a new dad, and it's fantastic. Best thing I've ever done, and I'm really enjoying it right now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Mike, what do you do to burn out some stress when you feel like you've had a horrible day?
I like to go to the gun range, man. I'm sorry. I know this is a little extreme, but when I've had a stressful day, I like to go to the gun range. I'll bring a couple boxes of ammo from home so I don't have to buy it. I get a little cheap $1 target. I get on the lanes and I just air it out, a couple hundred rounds and just go. And I know that sounds crazy to some people out there because if you know anything about bullets in particular, rounds are expensive, but I bring my guns, I bring my rounds. And I have a couple of boxes of guns that have over 500 rounds in each box, and I just go. Like, there's nothing more stress relieving than airing it all out on the gun range. So that's what I do.
That's sweet. That's sweet, man. I love it. I've seen here in San Jose, they have some of those, like, I don't even know what they're called, but they're those rooms that you just go and break shit. Like you just slam glass and you get a hammer and you break a bunch of shit. I always thought that would be really cool to go to. I don't know how much they cost, but it'd be cool to go take out your anger on that. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but they're fun. They look fun.
I have. They look cool.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you for rocking with us. I know it was late. I know it was a little short notice. Mike, let the folks know where to find you. I'm sure they're already subscribed. In case they aren't, let them know.
If you guys aren't subscribed already, make sure you guys head on over to the Patreon page. It's patreon.com/NB9ERS. That is the #1 spot for unreleased 49ers content from me. Otherwise, you guys can head on over to the YouTube page, and we are Nothing But Niners over there. I can't wait to see you guys there. Thank you all for checking us out, showing long-term support. I love and appreciate every one of you guys.
Make sure you guys go and check it out. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Or not scrolling, sorry, on the bottom of your screen. Patreon.com/NB9ERS. And make sure you follow them on Instagram as well. Make sure you go follow them and subscribe on YouTube. All of our handles of X are on the screen. Matt, why don't you carry us out?
Absolutely. Tomorrow's going to be a domination. It should be anyway. Another bird feather in our cap. 3 out of 5. Let's go out hunting for those Seahawks. That being said, Zach, thank you so much. Mike, late drop in, but we appreciate you as always. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to having you next time. We'll see who wins the hoodie. We'll see who wins the game tomorrow. But for myself, for everybody here, we love having you guys. Thank you as always. And until next time, go Niners.